Okay, we're going to do the guided practice for this section. We're going to go through it pretty quickly. I would like you to have tried it first before watching this video, because writing down the correct answers without understanding why they're there doesn't really help any, and this isn't for a grade or anything. I just want you to make sure you know how to do it. Okay, so we'll just go through them one by one, and hopefully just check your answers. Make sure you know what you're doing. If you don't, you can ask me if you can't figure out what you did wrong, or if you did figure out what you did wrong, then you're good, right? So number one, a proportion, and this is page 74 in the book, if you wanted to go ahead and try that first. Number one, a proportional relationship is a relationship between two quantities in which the ratio of one quantity to the other quantity is or is not constant. Is constant. That's what makes it proportional, meaning if one quantity changes, the other one changes at the same ratio, at the same amount. Not necessarily, not a plus and minus amount, but multiplication amount, okay, or division. So if one goes up by multiplying by 2, the other one also goes up by multiplying by 2. When expressing an equation of a proportional relationship in the form y equals kx, k represents the constant of proportionality. Okay, and later on we'll call that slope. But constant of proportionality, how the two react with each other. Write an equation that describes the proportional relationship between the number of days and the number of weeks in a given length of time. So this one, part A, complete the table. Okay, 1 week, that's 7 days. 2 weeks, how many days in 2 weeks? Well, to get from 1 to 2, we had to multiply by 2, because with ratios, it's all multiplication. So 7 times 2, that would be 14. 2 to 4, we doubled it again. So 4 weeks would be 28 days. And then it goes to 56, which 56 is 2 times 28, so this would be 8. And then from 8 to 10, it just goes up by 2. So that means what? Well, we can look at this a couple different ways. We can say, well, what is our k? Our k is our y, which is our time in days. So 7 over 1, or 14 over 2, or 28 over 4, or 56 over 8. Okay, so 7 over 1. So that means that our equation would be y equals 7 over 1. 7 divided by 1 is just 7 times x. So we plug in our x for 10, and that's going to be 70. Another way to look at it is this went up by, from 8 to 10 is a 2-week change, and we know that 2 weeks is 14 days. So we add the 14 to the 56, that would also get us 70. Okay, so breaking that down, let x represent weeks. So it's time in weeks, and y represents days, or time in days. The equation that describes the relationship is, well, we already did that, y equals 7x. Each table or graph represents a proportional relationship. Write an equation that describes the relationship. Okay, so we're going to write an equation just like that based off of what we have. So this table, 2 becomes 4, so that's multiplied by 2. So 5 would become 10. 34 divided by 2 to get up here is 17. And 120 times 2 is 240. And then our equation is just y equals 2x. Because 4 is our y, x is our 2, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So y equals 2 times x. This one, distance in miles and distance in inches. So it's a scale map, right? So how far is it in miles versus on the map it's in inches. Okay, so we have this point right here, that's 30. And this point right here is 1. So the point that we have is 130. Remember, our k is equal to y over x. So that would be 30 over 1. So y is going to be 30 over 1 times x, which is just 30x. Y equals 30x. And then essential question check-in. If you know the equation of a proportional relationship, how can you draw the graph of the equation? Proportional relationships all start at 0, 0, so we can start at 0, 0. And then our proportion, so if it's 30, we would go up 30 for every time we went over 1. So we call this rise over run. We use it more with slope, but it works with this just as well. For whatever our rate is, we're going to, the other thing we could do is we could just plug in a second point, right? We could plug in an x value, so we could plug in a 1 for x, we could plug in a 2 for x, and whatever we plug in will give us a y value. Sorry, that should be a y. So whatever we get from the x, that becomes our y value, and we can just plot that point. And once we have 2 points, and we draw a line through them, that's our line, okay? Because every other point will be on that line. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully you had all that down. And if you have any questions or you got lost, you don't understand where something came from, please let me know so that we can go over it.